A single act of compassion at a rural gas station thrust Ava Robinson into a storm she never saw coming. When the elderly veteran whose tank she filled appeared the next morning with a dozen Navy SEALs at her doorstep, the ER nurse's quiet life imploded. They called it protection. Her neighbors called it suspicious. But as Ava would soon discover, her late brother Malcolm hadn't just died serving his country. He'd uncovered corruption that powerful men would kill to conceal. Now, armed with nothing but her brother's hidden evidence and surrounded by hardened warriors who'd sworn to defend the truth, Ava faced an impossible choice: retreat to safety, or finish what Malcolm started and expose Operation Sandviper, no matter the cost. Just before we get back to it, I'd love to know where you're watching from today, and if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed. The evening sun cast long shadows across the small gas station on the edge of town. Ava Robinson stood at pump number 3, watching the numbers climb as she filled her tank. At 35, she carried herself with the quiet dignity of someone who had weathered storms yet remained standing. Her dark brown eyes, framed by a face that rarely wore makeup after 14-hour shifts, scanned the nearly empty station out of habit. Working as an ER nurse at County General and picking up weekend shifts at Rosie's Cafe had left little time for anything else in her life. But Ava preferred it that way. Keeping busy meant keeping the memories at bay, memories of a flag-draped coffin and promises left unfulfilled. The pump clicked off, and Ava replaced the nozzle, securing her gas cap with a practiced twist. That's when she noticed him, an elderly white man with weathered skin and military-straight posture despite his obvious frailty. He stood at the counter inside, gnarled hands trembling as they emptied a small coin purse. Through the glass, she could see the clerk's face, that look of awkward pity mixed with impatience that Ava had come to recognize all too well in her line of work. The old man was counting pennies, shoulders gradually slumping with each coin that wasn't enough. Ava didn't hesitate. She wasn't wealthy by any means, her apartment was small, her car was 12 years old, and her savings account was modest at best. But something about the proud set of the old man's jaw, even as his dignity was being stripped away coin by coin, resonated deep within her. "Excuse me," she said, stepping into the fluorescent brightness of the convenience store. "I'd like to pay for this gentleman's gas as well." The clerk, a teenager with tired eyes and a name tag reading Mike, looked up with mild surprise. "It's $27.50. Ava slid her card across the counter, ignoring the old man's startled expression. "Miss, that's not necessary," he said, his voice a gravelly rumble that spoke of command, despite his current circumstances. "I know," Ava replied simply, punching in her PIN. "But I'd like to anyway." The old man studied her face, blue eyes sharp despite his years. "May I at least know your name, young lady?" Ava offered a small smile as she took her receipt. "It's nothing, really. Have a good evening, sir." With that, she turned and walked out, the bell above the door chiming softly behind her. Back in her car, Ava caught a glimpse of the old man watching her through the window, still standing at the counter. Something in his gaze made her uneasy. Not fear, exactly, but the strange sensation of being truly seen for the first time in years. As she drove away, Mike the clerk leaned against the counter watching the old man hobble toward pump number 5. "That lady comes in here pretty regular," Mike said conversationally. "Works over at the hospital. Always polite, unlike half the people who come through here." The old man nodded, his eyes still fixed on Ava's taillights as they disappeared down the road. "Does she now?" "Yeah, and she's done stuff like that before. Last month some mom couldn't pay for her kid's medicine and gas. That nurse, Ava, I think her name is, covered it without making a big deal." The old man's eyebrows rose slightly. "Ava," he repeated, testing the name. Mike was already scrolling through his phone, boredom reclaiming him. "Yeah, seems like a good person, you know. Rare these days." The security camera above the door captured it all. The old man pumping his gas with military precision, his gaze occasionally drifting in the direction Ava had driven, and the careful way he noted the time and location in a small notebook before driving away in an old but immaculately maintained pickup truck. The cabin sat back from the road, nestled among tall Virginia pines that shielded it from casual observation. Inside, the space was Spartan but comfortable, the dwelling of someone who valued function over form. General Warren Beckett, retired, moved through his evening routine with the same discipline that had carried him through 4 decades of military service. His dinner was simple: baked chicken, steamed vegetables, and black coffee. No alcohol, not anymore. Not since Sandviper. After washing his dishes and placing them in the rack to dry, Warren made his way to the small desk in the corner of his living room. A faded photograph in a simple frame caught the lamplight. Younger versions of men standing shoulder to shoulder in desert fatigues, weapons held with casual competence. Warren touched the glass gently, his weathered finger resting on the face of a man standing in the center. "Found someone who might be worthy, Jackson," he murmured to the photograph. "Reminds me of what we used to fight for." Warren picked up his secure phone, a relic from his final days of service that still connected him to those who operated in the shadows. He dialed a number from memory. "Hawk? It's Beckett." A pause. "Yes, I know what time it is." Another pause. "I found someone. She's exactly what I told you to watch for." He listened for a moment. "No, not yet. But she's Malcolm's sister." "I'm sure of it." A longer silence. "Yes. Proceed with the first stage, but carefully. We can't afford another mistake." Warren ended the call and sat in silence for several minutes, gazing at the photograph. Then, with practiced movements, he opened a hidden panel in the desk and removed a flat wooden box. Inside, nestled in velvet, lay a collection of medallions, each one a testament to valor, sacrifice, and brotherhood. He selected one, running his thumb over the embossed surface. The Navy SEAL trident caught the light, its eagle, anchor, trident, and pistol symbolizing the elite force he had once commanded. "Time to see if she's truly her brother's sister," Warren whispered, returning the box to its hiding place. Ava trudged up the stairs to her second-floor apartment, shoulders aching from a double shift. The hallway light flickered as it always did, casting uneven shadows across the worn carpet. Her neighbor's television blared through thin walls, a late-night game show with 2 enthusiastic contestants. Reaching her door, Ava paused. Something glinted in the dim light, a small object placed carefully on her welcome mat. Frowning, she crouched down, keys held between her fingers as a makeshift weapon, a habit her brother had taught her years ago. It was a medallion. Heavy and clearly valuable, its surface etched with symbols she recognized immediately. A Navy SEAL trident. Her heart stuttered in her chest as she picked it up, its weight familiar, yet impossible. Ava glanced quickly down the empty hallway, then unlocked her door and slipped inside, double-checking the deadbolt behind her. The medallion felt warm in her palm, as though it carried some of the life of its previous owner. Malcolm had owned one just like it, awarded after he completed the brutal training that transformed ordinary sailors into extraordinary warriors. His had been buried with him, tucked into the pocket of his dress uniform as he was lowered into the ground. Ava placed the medallion on her kitchen counter and stared at it, memories washing over her like a tide. That rainy afternoon at Arlington, the crack of the rifle salute still echoing in her ears, the solemn faces of Malcolm's teammates, their tridents gleaming against dark uniforms, and the woman, the one who had handed Ava the folded flag with gloved hands and eyes that seemed to hold a message Ava couldn't decipher. "What is this?" Ava whispered to her empty apartment. Who would leave this? Sleep eluded her that night. Ava tossed and turned, her dreams a chaotic blend of past and present. In her fitful sleep, she was back at Arlington, rain soaking through her black dress, the weight of the folded flag heavy in her arms. But this time, the dream shifted. The woman in uniform leaned close, her lips near Ava's ear. "He left something for you," the woman whispered. "Something that will change everything. When they come for you, be ready." Ava jolted awake, heart hammering, the words lingering like smoke. Outside her window, the town slept under a blanket of stars, peaceful and unaware. But far below, moving silently through the darkness, A black SUV with tinted windows made its way toward her street, its occupants hidden from view. Miles away, in a secured facility buried beneath ordinary government offices, a monitor flickered to life. Satellite imagery zoomed in on Ava's apartment building. A man with cold eyes and a perfectly pressed suit watched the black SUV's progress. Subject located, a technician announced. Brotherhood assets are on approach. The man nodded once. Maintain surveillance. Alert me if anything changes. He turned to leave, then paused. And initiate Protocol Chimera. If they're moving, it means they found something. I want to know what. Yes, Mr. Strom, the technician replied, fingers already flying across the keyboard. Victor Strom stepped into the hallway, his reflection in the polished floor revealing nothing of the calculations happening behind his eyes. 15 years of careful work, billions in secret contracts, and countless eliminated loose ends. All potentially at risk because of a nurse who happened to be in the right place at the wrong time. Find out everything about Ava Robinson, he ordered the agent waiting outside. Every detail, no matter how insignificant. If she's connected to Malcolm, we need to know how deeply. The pieces were moving on the board, a game resuming after years of stalemate. But this time, Victor intended to ensure there would be no survivors to tell the tale of Sand Viper. The knocking dragged Ava from a restless sleep. For a moment, she thought it was part of her dream. Persistent and rhythmic, like Malcolm's coded knock they'd used as children. But as consciousness returned, the knocking continued, now accompanied by multiple low voices outside her door. Ava grabbed her phone. 5:43 a.m. Far too early for visitors, especially on her rare day off. She slipped from bed, pulling on a robe over her pajamas. Through the peephole, she saw not one or two, but several tall figures filling her narrow hallway. Ms. Robinson? A deep voice called. We need to speak with you. Heart racing, Ava grabbed the medallion from her nightstand and clutched it tightly. Who are you? Friends of General Beckett, and of Malcolm. The mention of her brother's name sent a jolt through her. Against her better judgment, Ava unlocked the door, keeping the chain in place. Through the narrow gap, she saw men dressed in navy blue tactical clothing, not military uniforms exactly, but close enough. They stood with the unmistakable bearing of soldiers. What do you want? Ava demanded, voice steadier than she felt. The man in front, tall, with close-cropped salt and pepper hair and eyes that missed nothing, spoke quietly. We're here to protect you, ma'am. We're what you might call the Brotherhood. I don't need, protection, Ava replied automatically. A hint of a smile touched the man's face. With all due respect, ma'am, you do. May we come in? It's better if we don't have this conversation in the hallway. Ava hesitated, but something in the man's steady gaze convinced her. She closed the door, removed the chain, and reopened it. Wider. 12 men filed into her small apartment with efficient movements, immediately taking positions at windows and doors. I'm Jason, the first man said, offering no last name. We're former SEALs, ma'am. All of us served with your brother, or under General Beckett. The man from the gas station, Ava realized aloud. Jason nodded. He's been looking for you for some time. Why? That's complicated, ma'am. What matters now is that we have permission to protect you for the next 48 hours. Ava crossed her arms. Permission from whom? I certainly didn't give it. From the highest authority we recognize, Jason replied cryptically. We need you to trust us, Ms. Robinson. Your brother would want you to. My brother is dead, Ava said flatly. Yes, ma'am. And the reason why is what's put you in danger. Before Ava could respond, another man by the window, younger with watchful eyes, signaled to Jason. Movement across the street, black sedan, tinted windows. Jason turned to Ava. We need to establish a perimeter. With your permission, we'll set up surveillance and rotation schedules. Some men outside, some in here. This is insane, Ava protested. You can't just camp out in my apartment. Not inside, ma'am. Your yard. We've brought equipment. Ava laughed incredulously. You want to pitch tents in my yard? My landlord will evict me. Your landlord has been handled, Jason said matter-of-factly. As for your neighbors, well, People will talk, but it's better than the alternative. Which is? Jason's expression hardened. You disappearing, ma'am. Like others have. The gravity in his voice silenced Ava's objections. She sank onto her couch, suddenly very aware of how her life had changed. In less than 24 hours. I have work tomorrow, she said weakly. We'll get you there safely, Jason assured her. For now, try to go about your normal routine. We'll be as unobtrusive as possible. Unobtrusive turned out to be a relative term. Within an hour, 4 military-grade tents were erected on her small lawn. Men in tactical gear patrolled the perimeter of her property, communicating via earpieces and addressing Ava as ma'am or priority 1 whenever she ventured outside. By mid-morning, her phone was buzzing constantly with texts from coworkers and acquaintances. Why are there soldiers at your place? Read one from a nurse at the hospital. Are you in some kind of trouble? Asked another. My husband says those guys are special forces. What the hell, Ava? She ignored them all, watching from her kitchen window as the men moved with practiced efficiency, establishing sight lines and communications. They were professional, respectful, and absolutely terrifying in their focused competence. Mrs. Gladwell from next door wasted no time in spreading theories. By noon, half the neighborhood believed Ava was under federal protection because she'd witnessed a crime. The other half suspected she was involved in something illegal herself. I always thought she was too quiet, Ava overheard Mrs. Gladwell telling another neighbor. Working those strange hours, never bringing anyone home. Maybe she's in one of those terrorist sleeper cells. Ava closed her window with more force than necessary, fighting back tears of frustration. Her life had been carefully constructed around privacy and routine, the only way she'd found to cope after Malcolm's death. Now it was crumbling around her, and she still had no idea why. A gentle knock at her door revealed one of the younger men, different from the others with his biracial features and calm demeanor. Ms. Robinson, I'm Elijah. Jason asked me to check if you need anything. Something about Elijah's manner was less intimidating than the others. Some answers would be nice, Ava replied dryly. Elijah's mouth quirked in a half smile. That's fair. Mind if I come in? Ava stepped aside, and Elijah entered, his eyes automatically scanning the apartment before settling back on her. Jason means well, Elijah said, accepting the seat Ava offered at her small dining table. But he's old school, believes in need to know and chain of command. And you don't? I believe people deserve to understand why their lives are being disrupted. Elijah leaned forward slightly. What do you know about your brother's last mission, The? Question caught Ava off guard. Nothing, it was classified. All they told us was that he died heroically in service to his country. Elijah nodded, as if confirming something to himself. Malcolm and I served together in the same unit. Did he ever mention me? Ava studied him, searching for familiarity. No. He didn't talk much about his work. Said it was better if we didn't know. That sounds like him. Elijah's expression softened with memory. Malcolm was the best of us. Not just skilled, though he was exceptional, but moral. He saw lines others didn't. What does this have to do with people camping in my yard? Elijah hesitated, clearly weighing his words. 7 years ago, our unit was deployed on what should have been a standard extraction mission. Intelligence had located a high-value target in Eastern Europe. We were sent to bring him in. Ava felt a chill run through her. This was more than Malcolm had ever shared. What we found instead, Elijah continued quietly, was something none of us were prepared for. A facility. Not on any official maps. American contractors running an operation that violated every international law and human rights convention. What kind of operation? Ava asked, though part of her didn't want to know. The kind that disappears people, Elijah replied, his eyes holding hers steadily. Malcolm made a choice that day. He broke protocol and intervened, saved 19 lives, including the daughter of a U.S. diplomat who'd been reported killed in action months earlier. Ava's hands trembled slightly. And that's why he died? Not directly, no. The mission was officially recorded as a success. The contractors were quietly reassigned. The survivors were debriefed and returned to their families under strict confidentiality agreements. Malcolm received a silver star that never made the public record. Then why? Because Malcolm kept evidence, Elijah said, lowering his voice further. He didn't trust that justice had been served, and he was right not to. 3 months later, he led another mission. That's when he died. You're saying he was killed because of what he knew? Elijah's expression remained carefully neutral. I'm saying that your small act of kindness to General Beckett yesterday connected dots that some very powerful people have spent years trying to erase. Ava stood abruptly, pacing her small living room. This is insane. I'm a nurse. I paid for an old man's gas because he reminded me of my grandfather. That's all. Is it? Elijah asked gently. Or did you do it because your brother taught you that standing by when you could help is the same as being complicit? The words hit Ava like a physical blow. They were almost exactly what Malcolm had told her years ago, when she'd complained about him always bringing home strays and lost causes. The Brotherhood has been watching for signs, Elijah continued. People connected to Malcolm who might have received information from him before his death. Your kindness at the gas station matched a pattern Beckett has been tracking. Small, acts of moral clarity that echo Malcolm's own code. So you think I have some... What? Secret information my brother gave me? Ava laughed incredulously. I don't. The last time I saw Malcolm was at Christmas, 7 months before he died. He gave me a sweater and a gift card to a bookstore. Elijah studied her thoughtfully. Perhaps you have something and don't know its significance, or perhaps you're simply being used as bait to draw out those who think you might have it. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. Elijah stood. But it's only half the story, Ms. Robinson. The rest will have to wait until Beckett decides you're ready. As if on cue, a commotion outside drew their attention. Through the window, Ava saw the men converging on the street side of her property. Weapons at ready positions. Elijah was instantly alert, hand moving to his sidearm. Stay inside, away from windows, he ordered, all trace of warmth gone from his voice. He moved quickly to the door, pausing only briefly. Remember what I said. This isn't about gas station kindness. It's about what Malcolm left behind. Left. Alone, Ava sank onto her couch, mind reeling. Outside, the men moved with practiced coordination, securing the perimeter. Through a gap in her curtains, she could see neighbors watching from their windows, some filming with phones. Her life as, she knew it was over. Whatever came next would be defined by secrets her brother had kept and choices she hadn't known she was making. As darkness fell, Ava made a decision. If answers existed, she knew where to start looking for them. Grabbing her keys and jacket, she slipped out her back door while the men were focused on a disturbance at the front of the property. The gas station was quiet at this hour, a single attendant, not Mike, scrolling through his phone behind the counter. Ava parked and waited, watching the road. 20 minutes later, headlights announced the arrival of an old pickup truck. General Warren Beckett emerged, his movements deliberate and unhurried. Ava stepped from her car, confronting him beside the same pump where their paths had crossed the day before. You have a lot to answer for, she said without preamble. Beckett regarded her with those penetrating blue eyes. Yes, ma'am, I suppose I do. Why is this happening? Why now? The old general's expression hardened, years of command evident in his bearing. Because they're coming for you, Ms. Robinson, and we're all that stands in their way. Behind them, a black SUV pulled into the station, its engine cutting off. Men in dark clothing emerged, moving with military precision toward Ava and Beckett, the same kind of men who were supposedly protecting her home. But something in their movements told Ava these men weren't part of the Brotherhood, and the game she didn't understand was about to enter a deadly new phase. The black SUV's doors opened simultaneously, as if choreographed. 4 men emerged, moving with the fluid precision that came only from years of specialized training. Ava felt General Beckett's hand close around her wrist, his grip surprisingly strong for a man his age. Walk to my truck. Don't run, he murmured, his voice barely audible. Are they... Not ours, Beckett confirmed grimly. Move. Now. They had taken 3 steps when headlights flooded the gas station, 2 more vehicles screeching into the lot from different directions. The cavalry had arrived. Jason, Elijah, and 4 other Brotherhood members poured out, weapons drawn, but low. General, Jason called. We've got this. Get her out. What followed happened so quickly that Ava's brain struggled to process it. The unknown men retreated to their SUV without a word, but not before one locked eyes with her. A cold, assessing gaze that seemed to be memorizing every detail of her face. Moments later, Ava found herself in Beckett's truck, speeding away from the gas station with a Brotherhood vehicle ahead and another behind. Who were they? She demanded, gripping the door handle as Beckett took a sharp turn onto a side street. Victor Strom's men, Beckett replied, eyes constantly checking the mirrors. Private military contractor. Former Delta Force operator who went mercenary 15 years ago. And he wants what exactly? To kill me? Beckett's weathered face remained impassive. Not yet. First he wants what he thinks you have. Everyone keeps saying that, Ava said, frustration boiling over. I don't have anything. Malcolm thought differently. Beckett glanced at her. 15 years ago, your brother uncovered something that powerful people have been trying to bury ever since. The truck turned onto a narrow forest road. Branches scraping against the windows. Ava realized they were heading deep into the Virginia countryside, away from any main routes or populated areas. I need to show you something, Beckett said as they pulled up to a small clearing. Something that might help you understand. The Brotherhood had converted an old hunting cabin into a secure operations center. Inside, computer screens lined one wall, satellite imagery and data scrolling across them. Maps covered another wall, with pins and strings connecting locations across Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Elijah sat beside Ava at a worn wooden table, sliding a cup of coffee toward her. The rest of the men maintained a respectful distance, but their attention remained fixed on the conversation. 15 years ago, Elijah began, his voice steady. Malcolm was part of a special reconnaissance unit tasked with gathering intelligence on suspected arms trafficking in Eastern Europe. What we found instead was a black site run by American private military contractors, men who had once been our brothers in arms. A projector flickered to life, displaying grainy footage on the cabin's wall. Ava recognized her brother immediately. Younger, his face leaner but unmistakable, moving stealthily through what appeared to be a warehouse. The timestamp in the corner read 05/17/2010. This was Malcolm's body cam, Elijah explained. What you're about to see never made it into any official report. The footage showed Malcolm and his team breaching a secure door, weapons ready. Instead of armed combatants, they found rows of cells. People, civilians by their appearance, huddled. Inside, expressions vacant or terrified. 19 civilians, Beckett said from the doorway. Being held for various purposes, intelligence extraction, leverage against high-value targets, human trafficking. Among them was Sophia Reyes, daughter of a U.S. diplomat. She'd been officially declared killed in action 3 months earlier. Ava watched in horror as the footage showed Malcolm breaking protocol, ordering the cells opened, the prisoners evacuated. In one frame, a man in tactical gear without identifying insignia confronted Malcolm, pointing aggressively at his chest. The audio was muffled, but one phrase came through clearly. This isn't your call, Robinson. Malcolm's response was equally clear. I'm making it my call. The contractors were running an unsanctioned operation. Elijah continued as the footage ended. Using American resources and intelligence to build their own power base. When Malcolm exposed them, it created a ripple effect that threatened billions in black budget contracts and dozens of powerful careers. The military covered it up, Beckett added, taking a seat across from Ava. Classified everything under national security protocols. The contractors were quietly reassigned. The survivors were returned to their families under strict confidentiality. Agreements. And Malcolm got a medal no one ever heard about, Ava finished, remembering Elijah's earlier words. Beckett nodded. Your brother wasn't satisfied. He knew the people behind the operation were still in power. So he did something very dangerous. He collected evidence, Names, dates, locations, financial transactions. Everything needed to expose not just the black site but the entire network behind it. Malcolm gave that evidence to someone he trusted, Elijah said, watching Ava carefully. But he never told us who. And you think that person was me? Ava shook her head. Malcolm and I were close, but he never involved me in his work. He was protective that way. Not you specifically, Beckett clarified. But someone in your life. Someone who might have passed something to you without explaining its significance. Ava's mind raced through possibilities. Malcolm's last visit home had been uneventful. Christmas dinner, gifts exchanged, conversations about her nursing career, and his vague descriptions of being deployed. Nothing that hinted at deadly secrets or classified evidence. I need to look through his things, she said suddenly. After he died, I packed everything up. It's in storage across town. Jason, who had been standing silently by the door, straightened. We can have a team there in 20 minutes. No, Ava said firmly. I need to do this myself. I know what was important to him. Elijah and Beckett exchanged glances. It's not safe, Elijah began. Nothing about this is safe, Ava countered. But if Malcolm left something for me to find, I'll recognize it. You won't. After a moment of silent deliberation, Beckett nodded. She's right, but she doesn't go alone. The storage facility was eerily quiet at dusk, rows of identical metal doors stretching into the distance. Ava stood before Unit 237, key in hand, while Elijah and another Brotherhood member named Turner maintained a watchful perimeter. I haven't been here since the funeral, Ava admitted softly. Couldn't bring myself to sort through it all. Elijah squeezed her shoulder gently. Take your time. The roll-up door protested with a metallic groan as Ava raised it. Inside, cardboard boxes and plastic bins were stacked neatly against the walls. A gun case, fishing equipment, and military footlockers occupied the center space. Everything was coated in a thin layer of dust, untouched for years. Ava moved methodically through the unit, opening boxes labeled in her own handwriting. Malcolm, books, Malcolm kitchen, Malcolm winter clothes. Nothing seemed out of place or significant. What exactly are we looking for? Turner asked from the doorway. I don't know, Ava admitted. Something that doesn't belong, something he would have hidden. Her fingers traced the edges of a footlocker bearing Malcolm's name and service number. The combination lock was still secure. She'd never been able to open it after his death. This, she said, pointing to the footlocker. This is the only thing I couldn't access. Elijah knelt beside her. Military issue, standard for personal effects. He examined the lock. 4-digit combination, any ideas? Ava thought for a moment. His birthday, 03/17. Elijah tried the combination. The lock didn't budge. What about yours? He suggested. Ava's birthday, their mother's birthday, the day Malcolm joined the Navy, all failed to open the lock. Frustration mounting, Ava sat back. On her heels. Wait, she said suddenly. The day our father died. Malcolm always marked it, 1104. Elijah rotated the dials to 1-104. The lock clicked open. Inside the footlocker, neatly organized, were items Ava had never seen. A journal bound in worn leather, several USB drives secured in waterproof cases, and a sealed envelope with her name written in Malcolm's distinctive handwriting. With trembling fingers, Ava broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper bearing just 7 words. Trust only the wounded wolf. Burn after reading. Wounded wolf? Elijah read over her shoulder. Mean anything to you? Ava shook her head, but a memory tugged at the edges of her consciousness. A story Malcolm had told her when they were children, about a wolf who sacrificed himself to save his pack from hunters. Maybe, she murmured, tucking the note into her pocket. Let's take all of this back to the cabin. As they were securing the footlocker in the car's trunk, Turner suddenly stiffened, hand moving to his weapon. We've got company. East entrance. Headlights. Appeared at the far end of the facility, moving slowly between the rows of storage units. Time to go, Elijah said, closing the trunk with practiced quiet. Back exit now. They had just reached their vehicle when gunfire erupted, bullets pinging off metal doors. Ava ducked instinctively as Elijah pushed her into the back seat. Turner, returning fire to cover their retreat. "Go, go, go!" Elijah shouted as he slid into the driver's seat, Turner diving into the passenger side a moment later. The car fishtailed out of the storage facility, tires screeching as Elijah executed a perfect J-turn and accelerated away from their pursuers. In the side mirror, Ava caught a glimpse of men in tactical gear advancing through the facility, methodically checking each unit. They knew exactly where to look, Turner said grimly, checking a wound on his arm where a bullet had grazed him. "Someone's been tracking us." Back at the cabin, the Brotherhood moved with heightened urgency. The discovery at the storage unit had accelerated the timeline. Whatever game was being played was now in its critical phase. Beckett examined the USB drives while Jason treated Turner's wound. Ava sat with the journal in her lap, reading Malcolm's private thoughts with a growing sense of dread. "He knew," she said finally, looking up at Elijah. "Months before that final mission, he knew something was wrong. He writes about wolves in the henhouse and contracts written in blood." "What about the wounded wolf?" Elijah asked. Ava turned to a page marked with a small ink dot. "Here. If anything happens to me, the wolf knows where to find the truth. He bears my mark as I bear his. That's all." Beckett approached, his expression grave. "One of the drives is encrypted. Military grade. Protection. The others contain fragments, financial records, personnel files, operation reports, but nothing complete." "It's a failsafe," Jason suggested. "Malcolm would have split the evidence to prevent anyone from accessing everything at once." A sudden commotion outside interrupted their discussion. One of the Brotherhood burst through the door, his face pale beneath his tactical gear. "Jackson's missing," he reported. "Missed his check-in at the perimeter. We found this." He held up a set of dog tags, bloodied and bent. "Search the woods," Jason ordered, immediately taking command. "Full tactical sweep, pairs only. No one goes alone." Hours later, they found Jackson's body a quarter-mile from the cabin. His throat had been cut, his tags removed, and a message carved into a nearby tree. "Stop digging." The discovery cast a pall over the group. Jackson had been one of their own. A brother, a SEAL, a man who had survived multiple combat deployments only to die in the Virginia woods. "They're sending a message," Beckett said quietly, standing over the body. "This is just the beginning." Ava watched as the men carried their fallen comrade back to the cabin with solemn dignity. The reality of the situation crashed over her. People were dying because of secrets her brother had kept, because of evidence he had hidden, because of a truth someone was desperate to keep buried. "I'm being used as bait," she said to Elijah, when they were alone. "Aren't I?" Elijah didn't try to soften the truth. "Yes. But you're also our best hope of finding what Malcolm hid." "Then let's use that," Ava decided, a plan forming in her mind. "If they want me, let them think they can get to me. Draw them out." Across the cabin, Beckett was studying satellite imagery on a tablet. He looked up, meeting Ava's determined gaze, and nodded once, acknowledging both her courage and the terrible risk she was proposing. As night fell, they began making preparations. Whatever came next would be dangerous, but the alternative, allowing Malcolm's killers to continue operating in the shadows, was unthinkable. Miles away, in a sleek office tower with no company name on the directory, Victor Strom reviewed drone footage of the storage facility operation. His men had failed to capture Ava Robinson, but they had confirmed she possessed something of value. "Interesting," Victor murmured, zooming in on Ava's face as she clutched Malcolm's journal to her chest. "So, the sister has the files after all." His assistant, a former intelligence analyst named Weber, studied the footage. "Should we move on the cabin?" Victor considered this, tapping his fingers thoughtfully on the polished desk. "No, let's watch a little longer. If she's Malcolm's sister, she has the files, but she may not understand what she has yet." He smiled thinly. "When she does, that's when we move." "And if the Brotherhood interferes?" Victor's expression hardened. "Then bring her in, or bury her. Either way, this ends now. Dawn broke over the Virginia mountains, painting the forest in hues of gold and amber. Ava stood on the cabin's porch, watching the mist rise from the valley below. For a moment, the beauty of it all made the danger seem distant, almost unreal. Behind her, the cabin buzzed with activity. The Brotherhood had been up all night, analyzing Malcolm's journal and the partial data from the USB drives. Jackson's body had been respectfully covered and secured for proper burial later. Elijah joined her on the porch, offering a steaming mug of coffee. "We may have something," he said quietly. "Coordinates in the journal margin, written in Malcolm's personal shorthand." Ava took the coffee gratefully. "Where do they lead?" "An old military training facility in North Carolina. Decommissioned. In 2008. "That fits the timeline," Ava noted, remembering passages from the journal. "Malcolm wrote about returning to the beginning several times." Elijah nodded. "Beckett thinks it's worth checking out. If Malcolm hid something physical, that might be where." "When do we leave?" "As soon as possible. Just you, me, and Turner. The rest stay here to maintain the appearance that we're all still at the cabin." The plan was simple, but risky. While most of the Brotherhood remained behind as a visible presence, Ava and a small team would slip away through hunting trails, switch vehicles at a predetermined location, and make the 3-hour drive to North Carolina. By mid-morning, they were on the road. Ava in the passenger seat while Elijah drove, Turner vigilant in the back. They avoided main highways, taking a circuitous route through small towns and country roads. "Tell me about him," Elijah said after they'd been driving in silence for nearly an hour. "Malcolm. Not the SEAL, the brother." A sad smile touched Ava's lips. "He was serious, even as a kid. Always felt responsible for everyone around him." She gazed out the window at the passing landscape. "Our father died when Malcolm was 12. He decided right then that he was the man of the house. Sounds like the Malcolm I knew. He used to rescue things," Ava continued, the memories bittersweet. "Stray dogs, injured birds, kids getting bullied at school. Never could stand seeing anything vulnerable being hurt. That's what got him into trouble in Eastern Europe," Elijah noted. "He couldn't look away." "No," Ava agreed softly. "He never could." The abandoned training facility loomed before them, chain-link fence surrounding concrete buildings overgrown with kudzu and wild roses. "Warning." Government property signs hung at intervals, faded by years of sun and rain. "Cheerful place," Turner commented as they parked a quarter-mile away, concealing the vehicle behind a stand of pine trees. Ava studied the facility through binoculars. "No signs of activity. But that doesn't mean we're alone." "Keep alert," Elijah instructed as they cut through the fence. If Malcolm chose this place, he had his reasons. The main building, once an administrative headquarters, was a hollow shell, windows broken, walls covered in graffiti. They moved through it methodically, checking each room against the coordinates from the journal. "This can't be right," Turner said, consulting the GPS on his phone. "There's nothing here." Ava wandered to a wall where military training posters still hung in tatters. One showed a soldier in full combat gear, the caption partially visible. "Attention to detail saves lives." "Wait," she said suddenly, remembering a game she and Malcolm had played as children, hiding treasures in the walls of their grandmother's house. It wouldn't be obvious. She began tapping the walls, listening for hollow spots. In a back office behind a fallen filing cabinet, the sound changed. "Here," she called to the others. "Something's different." Elijah examined the wall, finding a hairline crack running from floor to ceiling. False panel. Clever. With careful pressure, the section of wall swung inward, revealing a small cavity. Inside sat a standard military footlocker, identical to the one they'd found in the storage unit. "Malcolm's secondary cache," Elijah breathed, helping Ava pull it from the hiding place. Like the first, this footlocker was secured with a combination lock. Ava tried the same code, 1104, but it didn't open. "Different lock, different code," she murmured, thinking. What would he use for something this important? Her fingers hovered over the dials, memory stirring. The day Malcolm had graduated from Bud's training, the day he officially became a SEAL. Do 223, she tried. The lock opened with a satisfying click. Inside, wrapped in waterproof material, they found maps marked with locations across Eastern Europe and the Middle East, fake passports and various names, and a small video recorder with a single memory card. He left a message, Ava said, her voice barely above a whisper as she held up the recorder. Back in the vehicle, they connected the recorder to Turner's laptop. Malcolm's face appeared on the screen, younger than when Ava had last seen him, but with new lines of worry etched around his eyes. Ava, he began, his voice sending a jolt through her. If you're watching this, I'm gone, and you're in danger. Malcolm looked directly into the camera, his expression a mixture of determination and regret. What I'm about to tell you will sound crazy, but I need you to listen carefully. The operation we uncovered wasn't just a rogue black site. It was part of something bigger, a network of private military contractors working with officials inside our own government. They call it Sandviper. He explained how the network operated, using military resources for private gain, trafficking in everything from weapons to human beings, eliminating anyone who threatened to expose them. I've collected evidence, Ava, names, dates, locations, everything needed to bring them down. But I can't trust normal channels. The corruption goes too high. Malcolm's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. I never wanted that. But if you're watching this, it means they found me before I could finish what I started. He leaned closer to the camera. The complete files are hidden where only you would think to look. Remember the story of the wounded wolf? That's your key. Find the wolf and you'll find the truth. The recording ended with Malcolm's final words. I love you, sis. Be careful. These people will stop at nothing. Silence filled the car as the screen went dark. Ava wiped tears from her cheeks, a new resolve hardening within her. We need to get back, Elijah said finally. The others need to see this. The return journey was tense, each of them processing the implications of Malcolm's message. Sandviper wasn't just a black site operation, it was a vast conspiracy reaching into the highest levels of government and military. As they approached the final turnoff to the cabin, Turner's phone buzzed with an alert from the security system they'd installed. Something's wrong, he said, studying the screen. Motion sensors were triggered 10 minutes ago, but no confirmation from the team. Elijah immediately diverted to their backup rendezvous point, an abandoned hunting lodge 5 miles from the main cabin. Call Jason, he instructed Turner. Authentication. Protocol Delta. The call went straight to voicemail. Not good, Turner muttered, trying another number with the same result. They approached the backup location with extreme caution, using thermal imaging to scan for heat signatures before closing. And the lodge appeared empty, but a single vehicle was parked behind it, one of the Brotherhood's SUVs. Inside, they found Jason hunched over a laptop, blood seeping through a makeshift bandage on his shoulder. Breach at the cabin, he reported grimly. Professional hit team. They knew exactly when to come. Casualties? Elijah asked, helping Jason into a chair while Turner secured the perimeter. 2 of ours wounded. Beckett's missing. They took him. Jason's eyes locked on Ava. They left this for you. He slid a phone across the table, not one of theirs. When Ava picked it up, it immediately lit up with a text message. We have the old man. If you want him alive, bring the complete Sandviper. Files to the coordinates below. 48 hours. Come alone. Ava's hands trembled with rage and fear. This is my fault. No, Elijah said firmly. This was always their plan. Use people you care about as leverage. Did you find anything at the training facility? Jason asked. Ava nodded, placing the video recorder on the table. Malcolm left a message, and clues to where the complete files are hidden. As Jason watched the recording, his expression grew increasingly grave. This is bigger than we thought. If what Malcolm says is true, we're not just dealing with Strom and his mercenaries. We're up against people with real power and resources. But we still don't know where the complete files are, Turner pointed out. Malcolm's wounded wolf clue means something to Ava, but we haven't figured it out yet. Ava paced the small room, Malcolm's words echoing in her mind. The wounded wolf. A story from their childhood, but also something more. A person, perhaps? Someone Malcolm trusted enough to entrust with explosive evidence. We need to go back, she said suddenly. Back where? Elijah asked. My apartment. There's something there. Something I missed. Jason shook his head. Too dangerous. Strom's people. We'll be watching it. That's exactly why we need to go, Ava insisted. They're focused on the cabin and Beckett right now. This might be our only chance. After heated debate, they agreed on a plan. While most of the remaining Brotherhood regrouped and planned Beckett's rescue, Elijah would accompany Ava back to her apartment under cover of darkness. Night had fallen by the time they approached Ava's building. As expected, surveillance was minimal. A single car parked across the street with 2 men inside, attention directed toward the main entrance. Service entrance, Ava whispered, leading Elijah through an alley to the building's rear. Inside her apartment, everything was exactly as she'd left it days ago. A lifetime ago, it seemed now. Ava moved purposefully to her bedroom closet, pushing aside clothes to reveal a locked chest. Malcolm gave me this for my 30th birthday, she explained, retrieving a key from her jewelry box. Said it was for keeping special memories. Inside, the chest were photographs, letters, and mementos from their childhood. Beneath it all, taped to the bottom, was a sealed envelope with a small drawing of a wolf in the corner. He knew, Ava whispered. He knew I'd keep this safe. The envelope contained a single USB drive, unmarked except for the same wolf drawing etched into its surface. The wounded wolf was never a person, Ava realized. It was this, the final piece of evidence, hidden where only I would think to look. As they prepared to leave, a noise from the hallway froze them in place. Footsteps, multiple sets, approaching her door. Backup exit, Elijah mouthed, gesturing toward the fire escape window. They were halfway out when Ava's door burst. Open! Armed men swarmed into the apartment, weapons raised. Go! Elijah pushed Ava onto the fire escape, placing himself between her and the intruders. Gunfire erupted as Ava scrambled down the metal stairs, the USB drive clutched tightly in her hand. Above her, Elijah returned fire, buying her precious seconds to escape. She reached the ground just as a black SUV screeched to a halt in the alley. The door flew open to reveal Turner in the driver's seat. Get in! He shouted. Ava dove into the vehicle, turning back toward the fire escape. Elijah! He's covering our exit, Turner said grimly, accelerating away from the building. He knew the risks. Tears blurred Ava's vision as they sped through back streets, the sound of sirens growing in the distance. In her hand, the USB drive represented everything. Malcolm's sacrifice, Elijah's courage, Beckett's capture, the truth about Sand Viper. Where are we going? She asked, forcing herself to focus on what came next. Somewhere they won't think to look, Turner replied, taking a sharp turn onto the highway. We have the evidence now. Time to use it. On a rooftop overlooking Ava's building, Victor Strom watched the SUV disappear into the night. Unlike his men, he didn't seem concerned by Ava's escape. Should we pursue? Asked his second-in-command. Victor shook his head, a cold smile playing at his lips. No need. We know exactly where they're going. He held up a tracking device, its screen showing a blinking dot moving steadily along the highway. The old man told us everything before he passed out. And what about our friends in Washington? The man asked. They're getting nervous. Tell them everything is under control, Victor replied calmly. By this time tomorrow, Malcolm Robinson's evidence will be destroyed, his sister will be eliminated, and Operation Sand Viper will remain buried where it belongs, in the desert sand with all its other secrets. The hospital corridors were eerily quiet at 3 a.m. Ava moved with practiced confidence, her nurse's scrubs and ID badge, borrowed from a sympathetic former colleague, providing the perfect cover. Behind her, Turner followed in orderly's attire, his watchful eyes constantly scanning for threats. Room 412 was guarded by a police officer who barely glanced at Ava's credentials before nodding her through. Inside, Cassandra Phillips lay still, beneath a web of tubes and monitoring equipment, her normally vibrant face nearly unrecognizable beneath bandages and bruising. "Oh, Cass," Ava whispered, taking her friend's hand gently. The steady beep of the heart monitor provided the only response. The explosion at Cassandra's house had been deliberate, a message meant for Ava. The doctors had been blunt. 3rd degree, burns over 20% of her body, smoke inhalation damage to her lungs, and a traumatic brain injury from being thrown by the blast. Her survival was miraculous, but her recovery remained uncertain. "I need 5 minutes," Ava told Turner, who positioned himself by the door, maintaining their cover while keeping watch. Alone with her unconscious friend, Ava finally allowed her composure to crack. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she leaned, close to Cassandra's ear. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "This is my fault, but I swear to you I'm going to fix it. The people who did this will pay." A soft knock at the door signaled their time was up. Ava squeezed Cassandra's hand one last time, before slipping back into the hallway, her grief hardening into something colder and more dangerous with each step. The Brotherhood's remaining members had regrouped at an underground bunker 50 miles outside of town, a Cold War relic repurposed as a safe house for off-book operations. The concrete walls and steel doors provided security, but the atmosphere inside was tense with grief and urgency. "Elijah?" Ava asked as Jason met them at the entrance. Jason's expression confirmed her fears before he spoke. "Took 3 of them. With him. Bodies being transported here now." Ava closed her eyes briefly, another loss piling onto the mounting toll. Elijah had been kind, honest, the type of man Malcolm would have been proud to call brother. And Beckett? Still no word. Jason replied, leading them deeper into the bunker. "But we received this an hour ago." He handed her a tablet displaying a video. General Warren Beckett sat in a metal chair, his face bruised but his eyes defiant. A mechanical voice overlaid the footage. "The Sandviper files for the old man's life. 40 hours remaining. Instructions to follow." "He's alive," Ava breathed. "For now," Jason agreed grimly, "but Strom isn't known for keeping his word." The main operations room buzzed with activity. Brotherhood members hunched over computers, monitoring communications and analyzing data. A wall-mounted screen displayed multiple news feeds, all covering the explosion at Cassandra's home, described as a gas leak according to official reports. Ava placed the USB drive on the central table. "This is what Malcolm died for. What Elijah died for." A tech specialist named Willis connected the drive to an isolated system, bypassing potential tracking software. The screen filled with folders, hundreds of them, meticulously organized and dated. Military contracts, financial transactions, personnel files, Willis murmured, eyes widening as he scrolled through the contents. "This is comprehensive." "Malcolm was nothing if not thorough," Jason commented, leaning closer to study the files. As they dug deeper, the true scope of Operation Sandviper emerged. What had begun as a black site in Eastern Europe had expanded into a vast network of illegal operations, weapons trafficking, money laundering, assassination contracts, and human trafficking, all using American military resources and protection. "These names," Turner breathed, pointing to a spreadsheet. "Senators, military commanders, corporate executives." "One name keeps appearing," Willis noted, highlighting a recurring entry. "Senator James Whitfield, the vice presidential candidate," Jason confirmed, his expression hardening. "Currently leading in all the polls." Ava stared at the screen, the pieces finally clicking into place. "That's why they're so desperate to keep this buried. If Whitfield becomes vice president, the entire network gets White House protection," Jason finished. The implications were staggering. For 15 years, Sandviper had operated in the shadows, corrupting everything it touched. Malcolm had discovered it by accident, but his death had been carefully planned, one loose end among many that Victor Strom had been paid to eliminate. We need to go public, Ava decided. Right now. Debate erupted immediately. Some Brotherhood members argued for caution. Releasing the files would put Beckett and themselves at greater risk. Others insisted on leveraging the information for a controlled extraction of the general first. The longer we wait, the more likely they'll move these operations, destroy evidence, and eliminate witnesses, Ava countered. Including us. What exactly are you proposing? Jason asked. A press conference, Ava said firmly. Me, alone, in public. I'll announce that I have evidence but won't specify what kind or where it's stored. That's suicide, Turner objected. It's a bluff, Ava corrected, to buy time and force them into the open. If I'm publicly connected to these allegations, they can't just make me disappear without raising more questions. After hours of heated discussion, they settled on a plan. Ava would hold a brief press conference, claiming to have information about government corruption, but providing no specifics. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood would analyze the files, identifying the most damning evidence to secure as leverage. By morning, Jason had arranged the press conference through sympathetic contacts at a local news station. The story, a nurse with explosive allegations against high-ranking officials, was too tempting for the media to ignore. Ava stood before the cameras in a borrowed suit, her expression composed, despite the fear churning in her stomach. Flashbulbs popped as she approached the microphone, dozens of reporters shouting questions simultaneously. My name is Ava Robinson, she began, her voice steady. 7 years ago, my brother, Navy SEAL Malcolm Robinson, was killed in action. I recently discovered evidence suggesting his death was not as reported. Instead, it appears he was silenced for uncovering illegal operations conducted by private military contractors with the knowledge and support of U.S. government officials. The room erupted with questions. Ava held up a hand for silence. I do not possess any classified information. I have not accessed any secure government systems. I am simply a private citizen seeking the truth about my brother's death. That truth, it seems, has made me a target. She detailed the explosion at Cassandra's home and the threats against her life, carefully omitting any mention of the Brotherhood or Beckett. I have no political agenda. I seek only justice for Malcolm and accountability for those responsible. I will be taking no questions at this time. With that, she stepped away from the podium, ignoring the shouted questions as Jason escorted her through a back exit to a waiting vehicle. It's done, she said as they drove away, adrenaline draining from her system. Now we wait. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, the press conference had gone viral. Ava Robinson trending across social media platforms. Veterans groups issued statements of support. Political commentators speculated wildly about which officials might be implicated. And in a sleek downtown office, Victor Strom watched the coverage with cold calculation, phone pressed to his ear. She's bluffing, he told the person on the other end. She doesn't have the complete files or she would have released them. He listened for a moment. Yes, sir. I understand the urgency. It will be handled. The Brotherhood's tech specialists monitored the digital fallout, tracking responses across official and unofficial channels. By evening, a troubling pattern had emerged. They're trying to discredit her, Willis reported, displaying several news articles questioning Ava's mental health and suggesting ties to anti-government groups. Standard character assassination, Jason noted. But this is new. He pointed to a breaking news alert. A local anchor reporting that federal authorities were investigating Ava Robinson for potential terrorism connections based on credible intelligence. They're laying groundwork to justify taking you into custody, Turner explained. Once they have you off the streets, anything could happen. The situation deteriorated rapidly. Ava's hospital suspended her pending investigation. Her landlord, citing a morality clause in her lease, issued an eviction notice. Her bank accounts were frozen for security review. They're erasing you, Jason said grimly, making you a non-person before they make you a non-issue. That night, as federal agents executed a search warrant on her apartment, Ava and a small Brotherhood team were already 50 miles away, ascending a winding road into the Blue Ridge Mountains. The safe house, a former hunting lodge converted for Brotherhood use, sat on a remote ridgeline accessible only by a single dirt road. Inside they found others like themselves, military whistleblowers, former intelligence officers, and civilians who had discovered too much about the wrong people. "Welcome to the sanctuary," said a silver-haired woman, who introduced herself only as Marion. "Most of us have been declared dead or missing. It's safer that way." As Ava settled into her sparse quarters, Jason prepared the next phase of their plan. With Beckett's rescue window narrowing, they needed leverage, and quickly. "We've identified the most likely location for Beckett's captivity," he told Ava, spreading a map across the table. "A private facility on the Gulf Coast, ostensibly a research center for a pharmaceutical company. Actually owned by Strom's Shell Corporation," Turner added. "Satellite imagery shows increased security in the past 24 hours. "You're going after him," Ava realized. Jason nodded. "Small team, surgical extraction. We leave in 3 hours." "I should go with you," Ava insisted. "No." Jason's tone left no room for argument. "You're too valuable. If we fail, you're the only one who can finish this." While Jason prepared the rescue team, Willis continued analyzing the Sandviper files, uncovering layers of corruption that spanned continents and decades. "There's something else here," he told Ava, pointing to encrypted medical records buried deep in the data. "These aren't combat casualties. They're medical experiments." Ava reviewed the files with growing horror. Sandviper hadn't just been trafficking people. They'd been using them as test subjects for experimental drugs and treatments, falsifying death certificates to cover their tracks. "Send this to every reputable news outlet," she instructed. "Anonymously. Focus on the medical data. It's the most immediately verifiable." As Willis began the careful process of leaking selected documents, Ava felt a strange calm settle over her. For the first time since this nightmare began, she was taking control, carrying forward Malcolm's mission instead of merely reacting to threats. Dawn was breaking when Jason's team departed for the Gulf Coast facility. Ava watched them go, offering a silent prayer for their safe return. Hours later, her secure phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Package secured. Multiple secondary acquisitions. Inbound." "They got Beckett," she told Willis, relief washing through her. "They're coming back." What she didn't expect was who they would bring with them. The European news agency's website crashed within minutes of publishing the exclusive. Their headline, "American Covert Operation Sandviper Linked to War Crimes, Human Trafficking," spread across the internet faster than any censorship effort could contain it. Monica, a former CIA analyst who had worked alongside Malcolm and now served as the Brotherhood's media strategist, monitored the global reaction from the sanctuary's communications center. "It's working," she reported as Ava joined her. 17 major outlets have picked up the story. White House press office is scrambling. Senator Whitfield has canceled a campaign appearance citing health concerns. Ava nodded, watching the screens with grim satisfaction. The carefully selected documents they'd leaked provided enough concrete evidence to demand investigation, without revealing their full hand. "Any word from Jason?" "ETA 3 hours, Monica replied. "They're taking extra precautions with the additional passengers." Victor Strom's retaliation came swiftly and unexpectedly. That evening, viewers across the nation watched in shock as Catherine Wells, a respected national news anchor, appeared on screen looking uncharacteristically disheveled. "I have been asked to read the following statement," she began, her voice flat and eyes darting nervously off camera. "Recent allegations regarding Operation Sandviper are fabrications perpetuated by Ava Robinson, a mentally unstable individual with connections to foreign intelligence services seeking to undermine American security." The forced broadcast continued for 5 excruciating minutes, Catherine reciting accusations against Ava that grew increasingly outlandish. When it ended, the anchor's eyes filled with tears before the feed abruptly cut. "They kidnapped her," Monica said in disbelief. "A national news anchor. They're getting desperate." "Or reckless," Ava countered. "This is too public, too messy." Within hours, Catherine Wells was reported missing. Police discovered signs of struggle at her home, but official statements suggested she had left voluntarily, after receiving threats related to her reporting. They're trying to control the narrative, Monica explained. But they've miscalculated. Attacking a beloved public figure has only amplified interest in the story. As predicted, Ava's reputation collapsed under the weight of the accusations. Her nursing license was suspended pending investigation. Former colleagues gave interviews describing her as troubled and increasingly paranoid in recent months. None of that matters now, Ava told the Brotherhood members gathered in the sanctuary's main hall. What matters is finishing this, for Malcolm, for Elijah, for everyone they've silenced. The rescue team returned after nightfall, vehicles pulling, into the sanctuary's underground garage with precious cargo. General Beckett, though injured and exhausted, walked under his own power. Behind him came others, former prisoners from the Gulf Coast facility, including the missing Brotherhood members, and among them a thin teenage girl with Malcolm's eyes. "Ava Robinson?" the girl asked, approaching cautiously. "I'm Anna. Your brother was my father." The revelation stunned Ava into silence. Malcolm had never mentioned a child, never given any indication he'd had a family beyond his sister. "He kept me secret to protect me," Anna explained as they sat together in the sanctuary's small kitchen. "My mother died when I was 3. After that, Malcolm placed me with trusted friends, former operators who lived off the grid." "How did you end up at Strom's facility?" "They found me 6 months ago," Anna said, her voice steady despite the horror she described. "Used me as bait, hoping Malcolm had told me something. When that failed, they kept me as leverage against anyone still loyal to him." Despite her youth, Anna carried herself with the same quiet strength Malcolm had possessed. At 16, she had already been trained in survival techniques, tactical communication, and cryptography, skills her guardians had insisted upon. "I can help," she told Ava and Jason during the debriefing. "I know how to decrypt the final codes in Malcolm's files." "How?" Jason asked skeptically. Anna smiled, Malcolm's smile. "He designed the encryption protocol specifically for me, based on stories he told me as a child." With Anna's expertise, they unlocked a hidden section of the files containing the most damning evidence, direct links between Senator Whitfield, Victor Strom, and the highest echelons of military command. The documents revealed how Sandviper had evolved from a black site operation into a mechanism for political control and profit. "There's more," Anna added, reviewing Malcolm's notes. "He mentions a second USB drive, a backup with additional evidence including video testimony from survivors." "Where?" Ava asked. "Your old family home," Anna replied, "in the place where he taught you to swim." The childhood memory surfaced immediately. A small pond behind their grandmother's house where Malcolm had patiently held Ava above water, teaching her to trust herself and the buoyancy of her own body. "That house was sold years ago," Ava said. "Doesn't matter," Jason interjected. "If Malcolm hid something there, we need to retrieve it before Strom's people make the same connection." The plan came together quickly. While Monica continued leaking selected documents to maintain public pressure, Ava and Anna would travel to the old family home to recover the second USB drive. Meanwhile, Beckett and the Brotherhood would prepare for the final phase, a coordinated release of all evidence across multiple platforms, too widespread to be contained. "It's too dangerous," Beckett argued when told of Ava and Anna's mission. Despite his injuries, the old general remained formidable. "Strom will have figured out the family connection by now." "That's exactly why we need to move quickly," Ava countered. "And Anna knows Malcolm's encryption protocols better than anyone." In the end, Beckett reluctantly agreed, but insisted on Turner accompanying them as security. The journey to Ava's childhood home in rural Pennsylvania took 6 hours, traveling only on secondary roads and switching vehicles twice to avoid detection. The modest 2-story house looked smaller than Ava remembered, its white paint peeling and garden overgrown. "New owners aren't much for yard work," Turner commented as they surveilled the property from a distance. "No one's home," Anna observed, noting the absence of vehicles and dark windows. "Or they want it to look that way," Turner cautioned. They approached under cover of darkness, using the dense trees surrounding the property for concealment. The pond, little more than a large swimming hole fed by a natural spring, lay behind. The house, now surrounded by tall grass and cattails. Malcolm said it would be in a watertight container, Anna whispered as they crept toward the water's edge. Attached to the old dock piling, the wooden dock had long since rotted away, but the main support posts remained, protruding from the murky water like sentinels. Ava waded in carefully, feeling along the submerged wood, until her fingers found a metal box secured with wire. "I've got something," she called softly, working to free the container. The crack of a twig was their only warning before floodlights blazed to life, illuminating the pond and surrounding area. Armed men emerged from the trees and house, weapons trained. On the exposed trio, "Ms. Robinson," Victor Strom stepped forward, his tailored suit incongruous in the rural setting. "How predictable. Malcolm always did favor sentimentality over security." Turner moved to shield Ava and Anna, his hand reaching for his concealed weapon. "I wouldn't," Strom advised coldly. "My men have orders to kill the girl first." Turner froze, eyes darting between the mercenaries surrounding them. "The USB drive, Ms. Robinson," Strom continued, extending his hand. "No need for additional bloodshed." Ava clutched the metal container, still dripping pond water. "This won't end with us. The Brotherhood has already released enough evidence to trigger investigations." "Investigations can be managed," Strom replied with a dismissive wave. "Witnesses discredited. Documents declared fraudulent. The system protects its own, Ms. Robinson." "Not this time," Anna said suddenly, her voice eerily reminiscent of Malcolm's. "My father made sure of that." Something in the girl's confidence gave Strom pause. "What are you talking about?" "Insurance policy," Anna replied with a slight smile. "Dead man's switch. The moment you took me from my guardians, a countdown began. Either I enter a specific code every 30 days or everything, every file, every video, every piece of evidence, goes to every major news outlet and intelligence agency in the world." Strom's expression hardened. "You're bluffing." 28 days left in this cycle, Anna continued calmly. "My father was nothing if not thorough." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Strom's face. He knew Malcolm Robinson well enough to recognize the plausibility of such a failsafe. The momentary distraction was all Turner needed. In one fluid motion, he drew his weapon and fired twice, hitting the nearest mercenary. Chaos erupted as Ava grabbed Anna and dove behind the cover of a fallen tree. Gunfire echoed across the pond as Turner engaged Strom's men, buying precious seconds for Ava and Anna to retreat toward the tree line. A bullet grazed Ava's arm, tearing through her jacket and drawing blood. "Keep moving," she urged Anna, pushing the girl ahead of her. They had nearly reached the relative safety of the forest when Anna cried out, stumbling forward. A dark stain spread across her lower leg where a bullet had found its mark. "I can't," she gasped as Ava pulled her up, supporting her weight. "Yes, you can," Ava insisted, Malcolm's determination flowing through her veins. "We didn't come this far to fail now." The firefight behind them intensified, then abruptly quieted, a silence more terrifying than the chaos that preceded it. Ava knew Turner had likely made his final stand, another name added to the growing list of those who had sacrificed everything to expose the truth. With Anna leaning heavily against her, Ava pushed deeper into the woods, the metal container secured. In her jacket pocket, behind them, Strom's men began a methodical search, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. Their escape route, a second vehicle hidden a mile away, seemed impossibly distant with Anna's injury slowing their progress. But giving up wasn't an option. Too many had died already. Malcolm's voice seemed to whisper in Ava's ear. "Keep moving, sis." One step at a time, and so she did. Anna's arm draped across her shoulders, the evidence clutched against her chest, and the promise of justice driving her forward into the uncertain night. Dawn broke over the sanctuary, pale light filtering through reinforced windows. Inside the command center, Jason surveyed the assembled group, a patchwork alliance of Brotherhood members, whistleblowers, and survivors. Their faces showed exhaustion, but also fierce determination. "No word from Turner, Ava, or Anna in 6 hours," he reported grimly. "We have to assume the worst." General Beckett, arm in a sling but spine military straight, nodded. Activate Prometheus Protocol. We're out of time. Prometheus Protocol, named for the Titan who brought fire to humanity, had been Malcolm's contingency plan. If all else failed, the truth would burn bright for all to see, regardless of the consequences. Monica began coordinating with international contacts, journalists, human rights advocates, and veteran organizations across the globe. Willis initiated secure file transfers to servers in countries beyond American legal reach. Others prepared encrypted broadcasts designed to bypass traditional media channels. "What about Catherine Wells?" asked a former intelligence analyst named Parker. "Strom still has her. And we still have the evidence connecting Senator Whitfield directly to Sandviper," Beckett countered. "This ends today, one way or another." As the team mobilized, an alert sounded from the perimeter security system. All eyes turned to the monitor displaying the approach road. "Vehicle approaching," Willis announced, zooming in on the battered pickup truck weaving erratically up the mountain path. Jason reached for his weapon. "Identification?" "None. But there are 2 occupants." The grainy image sharpened, revealing Ava behind the wheel, and unconscious Anna slumped against the passenger window. "Open the gate," Jason ordered, already running for the entrance. Ava could barely stand when she finally stepped from the vehicle, her clothes torn and blood-stained, face ashen with exhaustion. In one hand she clutched the metal container from the pond. "Anna's been shot," she managed before collapsing into Jason's arms. Turner didn't make it. While the sanctuary's medical team rushed Anna into surgery, Ava recounted their encounter with Strom. The second USB drive contained exactly what Malcolm had promised: video testimonies from Sandviper victims, recorded before his death, along with operational footage smuggled from secure facilities. "Turner bought us time," Ava explained, wincing as a medic cleaned the bullet graze on her arm. "He engaged Strom's men while we escaped through the woods. Anna was hit as we ran." "And Strom?" Beckett asked. "Alive. Hunting." Ava's eyes hardened. "He knows about Anna's dead man switch now. He'll be desperate." The news of Turner's sacrifice spread through the sanctuary, grief mingling with renewed purpose. Another name added to the memorial wall, another reason to finish what Malcolm had started. With both USB drives in their possession, the full picture of Sandviper finally emerged. What had begun as a classified military operation had metastasized into a shadow government, controlling defense contracts, manipulating foreign policy, and eliminating anyone who threatened their power. "The public needs to see this," Ava insisted, reviewing the victim testimonies. "All of it. If we release everything at once, we lose control of the narrative," Monica cautioned. "Let me handle the media strategy." Working through secure channels, Monica began leaking documents to carefully selected journalists known for their integrity and courage. Within hours, headlines appeared across Europe and Asia, beyond the immediate reach of American pressure. Private military contractors linked to war crimes. U.S. Senator implicated in international human trafficking, ring whistleblower evidence reveals. Decade-long cover-up. The response was swift and predictable. Senator Whitfield's office issued a statement denouncing the fabricated claims and threatening legal action against any outlet reporting them. Military officials declared the documents potential foreign disinformation. Social media platforms mysteriously removed posts linking to the evidence. But the digital floodgates had opened. For every article taken down, 3 more appeared. Citizen journalists and independent media outlets amplified the revelations. Veterans groups issued statements supporting Ava and questioning the official narrative surrounding Malcolm's death. Victor Strom monitored the situation from his private command center, surrounded by communications equipment and increasingly anxious associates. The secure line connecting him to Washington had been ringing continuously for hours. "It's contained for now," he assured the voice on the other end, "but we need to accelerate our timeline." His attention shifted to a separate monitor displaying a live news feed. Catherine Wells sat rigidly before the camera, reading another scripted statement questioning Ava Robinson's credibility and mental stability. When the broadcast ended, Strom approached the terrified anchor. "Convincing performance. Your family should be proud." Catherine's eyes flashed with defiance despite her fear. They're going to know you forced me. This will only make people believe Ava more. Perhaps, Strom conceded, checking his watch. But it won't matter much longer. In a separate part of the facility, technicians were tracking Ava's digital footprint, analyzing patterns in the document leaks to locate the sanctuary. Others prepared for a final operation, one designed to eliminate all remaining loose ends. Back at the sanctuary, Anna emerged from surgery, pale but stable. Ava sat beside her bed, holding the girl's hand as she regained consciousness. "Did we make it?" Anna whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes," Ava assured her. "The evidence is secure. The world is starting to listen." Anna managed a weak smile, Malcolm's smile. "He would be proud of you." "Of us," Ava corrected gently. "He kept you secret to protect you, but he never forgot you. The encryption key for his most important files was your birthday." As Anna rested, Ava joined the others in the command center, where the atmosphere had grown increasingly tense. Willis had detected sophisticated attempts to breach their security systems, while surveillance drones had been spotted in the surrounding mountains. "They're closing in," Jason confirmed. "We need to move to the backup location." "Not yet," Beckett countered. "First, we release everything, the complete files, the victim testimonies, the video evidence. Once it's public, they lose their incentive to silence us." The debate was interrupted by an urgent alert from Willis. "Incoming transmission. It's Strom." The main screen flickered to life, revealing Victor Strom's cold, composed face. Behind him, a man knelt on the floor, head covered with a burlap sack, hands bound behind his back. "Ms. Robinson," Strom began conversationally, "I believe we have someone of interest to you." He removed the sack, revealing a battered but defiantly glaring Brotherhood member, Scott, who had been missing since the cabin ambush. 72 hours, Strom continued. "That's how long you have to surrender all copies of the Sandviper files and present yourself at coordinates I'll provide. Fail to comply, and Scott is just the first of many to die slowly." "Don't do it, Ava," Scott shouted before a guard struck him silent. Strom's expression remained unchanged. "The clock is ticking, Ms. Robinson. And not just for Scott. We've identified every member of your little crusade, their families, their friends. This ends with your surrender or their suffering." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the command center in stunned silence. "It's a trap," Jason stated flatly. "Obviously," Beckett agreed. "But Scott is one of ours." Ava stood motionless, processing Strom's threat, the same impossible choice Malcolm had faced. Mission or man, truth or mercy. "We stick to the plan," she decided finally. "Release everything. Then I go to Strom." Protests erupted immediately, but Ava raised her hand for silence. "I'm not sacrificing myself," she clarified. "I'm buying time. Once the files are public, Strom loses his leverage with his employers. His mission changes from recovery to damage control. And that makes you expendable," Beckett pointed out. "No," Monica interjected, understanding dawning in her eyes. "It makes her a witness they need to discredit, not eliminate. A dead martyr would only validate the evidence." The logic was sound if desperately risky. They proceeded with the plan, working through the night to prepare the comprehensive data release. By morning, everything was in place. Secure servers, worldwide standing by to receive and publish the complete Sandviper files. Ava recorded a video statement detailing Malcolm's discovery, the subsequent cover-up, and her own journey to uncover the truth. She named names, cited specific operations, and directed viewers to the evidence that would confirm her allegations. "My brother gave his life to expose this corruption," she concluded. "Others have died to keep his mission alive. I ask only that you look at the evidence and demand accountability from those who betrayed their oaths and their country." As the video uploaded to hundreds of independent platforms simultaneously, Ava prepared for her meeting with Strom. She memorized maps, practiced counter-surveillance techniques, and spent precious hours with Anna, explaining what might happen. "If I don't come back," she told the girl, The Brotherhood will protect you. You'll never be alone again. Anna, still recovering but clear-eyed, gripped Ava's hand fiercely. You told me the truth matters. Now show me that you meant it. The words, so reminiscent of Malcolm's unwavering moral compass, strengthened Ava's resolve. Whatever came next, she would face it with the same courage her brother had shown. Monica entered the room, tablet in hand, her expression uncharacteristically somber. There's something you need to see. On the screen, breaking news banners announced the death of Catherine Wells, suicide according to initial reports, though the circumstances remained suspicious. The message was clear. Strom was eliminating witnesses. This changes nothing, Ava said after a moment of silence. We proceed as planned. Jason coordinated with the remaining Brotherhood members, establishing surveillance around the meeting coordinates and preparing extraction scenarios. Beckett worked with Willis to ensure the evidence would continue spreading, even if the sanctuary was compromised. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood's media allies began reporting on a tragic car accident near the Virginia-North Carolina border. A vehicle explosion that had apparently claimed Ava Robinson's life. The false report, complete with manipulated traffic camera footage, was designed to buy precious time. Ava's actual departure from the sanctuary occurred under cover of darkness. A small team accompanied her to a predetermined handoff point, where she would continue alone to meet Strom. 72 hours, Jason reminded her, checking her tracking devices one final time. After that, we come for you, ready or not. As Ava prepared to leave, Anna hobbled from the medical wing, leaning on a crutch but determined to say goodbye. I just found my family, the girl said, embracing Ava fiercely. Don't make me lose it again. Never, Ava promised, though they both knew some promises were beyond her power to keep. The rendezvous point was a decommissioned weather station on a remote Icelandic island, neutral territory, accessible only by helicopter or boat. Ava arrived alone as instructed, carrying nothing but the clothes on her back and a satellite phone. Strom waited inside the main building, flanked by armed guards. Scott knelt nearby, alive but badly beaten. Ms. Robinson, Strom greeted her with cold professionalism. Right on time. Where are the files? She asked, avoiding any mention of the data release scheduled for exactly midnight. Less than 6 hours away. Safe, Ava replied evenly. Release Scott and I'll take you to them. Strom studied her for a moment, then nodded to one of his men. Take him outside. Keep him secured. Once Scott had been removed, Strom's demeanor shifted subtly. You've caused quite a disruption, Ms. Robinson. Senator Whitfield is particularly displeased. That was the point. Was it worth it? Strom asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. The lives lost? Your friend in the hospital? The nurse who pulled extra shifts to help others, now branded a traitor? Ask the 19 people my brother saved, Ava countered. Ask the families of those who disappeared into Sandviper Black sites. Ask Anna. At the mention of Malcolm's daughter, Strom's expression hardened. You have no idea what you're interfering with. Sandviper wasn't just an operation, it was the foundation for American security in an increasingly hostile world. Its how was human trafficking and torture disguised as national security, Ava replied. And it ends tonight. Before Strom could respond, his satellite phone buzzed urgently. The call was brief, his face growing increasingly pale as he listened. What have you done? He demanded, grabbing Ava's arm. Exactly what Malcolm would have done, she answered. The truth is out, Strom. All of it. Every file, every video, every name, including yours. As if to confirm her words, the station's ancient television flickered to life. One of Strom's men had turned it on to check the news. On screen, international outlets were reporting simultaneously on the Sandviper. Revelations. Senator Whitfield's face appeared beside footage of military contractors loading unmarked aircraft. Victim testimonies played in split screen with financial documents showing billions in illicit transfers. It's over, Ava said quietly. Strom's composure cracked for the first time. Do you have any idea what you've done? The contracts I have? The power behind them? I know exactly what I've done, Ava replied, standing her ground despite the danger radiating from him. I've finished what Malcolm started. In one fluid motion, Strom drew his weapon and aimed it at Ava's heart. Then, you can join him. The door burst open as Elijah, alive though badly wounded, staggered in, his own weapon trained on Strom. Drop it, Victor. Strom's attention shifted for just a fraction of a second, enough time for Ava to move. The gunshot echoed through the small room as Elijah fired, catching Strom in the shoulder. The mercenary leader returned fire as he fell, his bullet finding Elijah's chest. Both men collapsed, blood pooling on the concrete floor. Ava rushed to Elijah, pressing her hands against his wound. "You're supposed to be dead," she whispered, tears blurring her vision. Elijah managed a pained smile. "Promised Malcolm I'd look after you." Outside, the sound of helicopters signaled the Brotherhood's arrival. The remaining guards, seeing the data release and realizing their employer was down, surrendered without resistance. Strom lay against the wall, blood seeping between the fingers pressed to his shoulder. "This changes nothing," he gasped. "People like me are replaced. The system continues." "Not this time," Ava replied, still trying to stem Elijah's bleeding. "This time the whole world is watching." As Brotherhood medics rushed in to treat Elijah, Ava stood over Strom, Malcolm's dog tags, clutched in her hand. "This is for my brother, and for every life you stole in the name of power." 3 months later, Ava stood before the Senate Intelligence Committee, cameras broadcasting her testimony worldwide. Behind her sat rows of supporters, Brotherhood members, Sand Viper survivors, and families of the disappeared. Operation Sand Viper represented the worst betrayal of American values and human rights, she stated, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words. What began as a classified military operation became a criminal enterprise protected by the very institutions sworn to uphold justice. The hearings had been ongoing for weeks, each day bringing new revelations and resignations. Senator Whitfield had withdrawn from the vice presidential race within hours of the data release, later arrested trying to flee the country. Military commanders implicated in the cover-up faced court-martial. Victor Strom, recovered from his wound, awaited trial on multiple charges including murder, kidnapping, and crimes against humanity. The global response had exceeded even Monica's expectations. Protests erupted in capitals worldwide, demanding accountability and transparency. Investigations launched in a dozen countries where Sand Viper had operated. Former victims came forward, emboldened by Ava's example. "My brother, Malcolm Robinson, gave his life to expose this corruption," Ava continued, her gaze sweeping across the committee members. "He believed that the truth would prevail if only someone had the courage to speak it. Today, I honor his faith by asking this committee to ensure that such abuses of power can never happen again." As Ava completed her testimony, the committee chairman, a former military judge known for his integrity, leaned forward. "Ms. Robinson, this committee and this nation owe you and your brother a debt we can never repay. Your courage has forced us to confront failures that reach to the highest levels of government." Outside the Capitol, Elijah waited with Anna, both watching the proceedings on a tablet. The former SEAL's recovery had been slow but steady, much like the healing beginning across a nation forced to confront uncomfortable truths. "She's just like him," Elijah observed as Ava fielded questions with unwavering composure. "Better," Anna replied with a hint of Malcolm's smile. "Dad would say so." A week later, they gathered at Arlington National Cemetery, where Malcolm had been laid to rest years earlier. This time, the ceremony included full military honors, belated recognition of his true service and sacrifice. General Beckett, dressed in his formal uniform for perhaps the last time, presented Ava with the Medal of Honor awarded posthumously to Malcolm. Brotherhood members stood at attention alongside active-duty SEALs, united in respect for a fallen brother. "He always knew you'd be the one," Beckett told Ava privately after the ceremony. "In his last letter to me, he wrote that if anything happened to him, you would find a way to finish what he started." Ava clutched the letter Malcolm had written before his final mission, delivered to her by Beckett after the hearings concluded. In it, Malcolm had expressed his pride in her, his regret for the secrets he'd kept, and his hope that someday she would understand why he'd made the choices he had. "I did what anyone would have done," Ava said. Beckett shook his head. No. You did what only the best of us would do. Stand for truth when lies would have been easier. The aftermath brought changes Ava could never have imagined. With Anna officially adopted as her daughter, she left nursing to establish the Malcolm Robinson Foundation for Transparency and Accountability. The organization, funded by donations from grateful citizens and veterans, provided support for whistleblowers and survivors of government abuses. The Brotherhood transformed as well, becoming a legitimate international watchdog group. Many members, their true identities now public, transitioned to roles advocating for veteran support and governmental oversight. Others, like Elijah, remained in the shadows, continuing the work of protecting those who spoke truth to power. 6 months after the hearings, Ava stood before the United Nations General Assembly, invited to address delegates on the importance of transparency in government operations. You don't have to wear a uniform to be a soldier for justice, she told the assembled representatives. My journey began with a simple act of kindness at a gas station. It continued because ordinary people refused to accept comfortable lies, when uncomfortable truths needed to be spoken. As Ava concluded her speech to thunderous applause, cameras captured the moment, a single black woman who had changed the course of history through courage and conviction. Later that evening, Ava boarded a city bus, her mind on dinner plans with Anna and Elijah. A young boy ahead of her searched his pockets frantically, unable to find fare money. Without hesitation, Ava stepped forward, tapping her transit card twice. "I've got it," she said simply when the boy tried to thank her. As Ava took her seat, she didn't notice the older woman watching from the back of the bus. The woman's calculating gaze followed Ava for several blocks before she finally reached for her phone. "It's her," the woman said quietly to someone on the other end. "The one we've been waiting for." She paused, listening. "Yes, exactly like the Robinson woman. Same instincts." She ended the call, continuing to observe Ava with interest. A new game was beginning, one that would test whether the lessons of Sandviper had truly been learned, or whether power would once again corrupt those sworn to serve. For now, though, Ava remained unaware, her thoughts on the family waiting, at home, and the legacy she had helped secure. Malcolm's mission was complete, but hers was just beginning. What would you sacrifice to expose a truth that powerful people would kill to keep hidden? If Ava's journey from ordinary nurse to extraordinary hero moved you, like and subscribe for more stories of courage that change the world. One small act of kindness at a time.